When Zendaya, the elegant yet powerful voice of Hollywood, stepped into the studio of The View, she intended only to promote her new film. But the atmosphere she encountered was more like a pitched battle before the cameras than an ordinary morning show. This wasn't just an actor's promotional tour, it was a test of honor, credibility, and grace, played out before the eyes of millions. Applause erupted throughout the studio. Zendaya walked onto the stage with her trademark dignity and calm confidence. She wore an elegant suit in light pastel hues, a warm yet cautious smile on her face. She bowed slightly to Whoopi and Sunny, then her eyes fell on Joy Behar. Joy's smile wasn't one of friendship, but of defiance. "Welcome back to The View," Joy said, leaning into her microphone. "Today's guest with us is actress and producer Zendaya. We're here to promote her latest film." The emphasis on latest film hung briefly but sharply in the air. Zendaya smiled, nodded gently. "Always nice to be here, thank you." Joy's head tilted slightly, the corners of her lips quirking slyly. "Oh, I bet you do," Joy said, a hint of sarcasm in her voice. "Zendaya, it's been a pretty colorful career for a young actress like you. Do you really consider yourself successful?" A quiet murmur rose among the studio audience. Some laughed, but the tone of the laughter was uneasy. Zendaya bowed her head and took a short breath. Her smile was gentle, but her eyes showed the strength within. "I was lucky," she said calmly. "I worked hard and poured my heart into every project. I'm proud of my work." Joy's laughter broke through the room, loud, condescending, and unsettling. "Hard work? Or just playing the same sensitive young icon role in different outfits for every project? If you've seen Zendaya once, you've seen them all." The room fell silent. The camera pulled in a close-up of Zendaya's face. Her eyebrows furrowed slightly, but her voice remained calm. "I guess if you want to see something in every character, Joy," she said gently, "I've tried to represent a different life, a different voice in every role." Joy interjected immediately, rolling her eyes. "Oh, I watch closely," she said sharply. "But so far, those roles have reeked more of PR than depth. There's a difference between playing an idealized version of a young woman and reality." Whoopi shifted in her chair. She tried to interject. "Joy," but Joy silenced her with a hand. Zendaya sat up straight, her eyes never leaving Joy's. "That may be your opinion. I respect it. But I'm sure the millions of young women, especially women of color, who watch me and see a piece of themselves in me, think differently." Joy smiled wryly, making the gesture of quotation marks in the air with her fingers. "Yeah, that famous voice of everyone image. But how will that work if that voice of everyone is sitting in a mansion in Beverly Hills and wearing Chanel?" Zendaya smiled genuinely this time, but a faint twinkle of sadness flickered in her eyes. She replied quietly, "I believe being successful doesn't mean breaking away from your roots, Joy. Looking strong means not forgetting where you came from." Joy's face tightened, her voice sharper. "Come on, man, you're part of Hollywood now. Making millions and then telling people on the street that you're a representative. Do you really think it's sincere?" "Oh my God, stop it," Joy said, her voice hardening. "You're just as caught up in this system as any other Hollywood star. Making millions and still claiming to experience real pain. It's a bit much for me. Frankly, you claiming to be the voice of the working class has become ridiculous." A sudden silence fell over the room. A few spectators lowered their gazes while the camera focused on Zendaya's face. Her eyes remained fixed. She took a deep breath. Her tone was calm but filled with determination. "That's a pretty big assumption, Joy," she said. "You don't know me, and you especially don't know where I come from." Joy leaned back, crossing her arms over her chest as if triumphant. "Maybe so," she said condescendingly. "But what I see is this. I see someone who's bought the glamour the system has given you. And under that glamour, you've forgotten how much you've struggled." Zendaya's hands rested on the table, but their fingers touched lightly, a controlled, calm tension. "You say a lot about me, Joy," she said gently but sharply. "But it feels like what you're saying isn't about me. It feels like it's about you." A soft ooh echoed through the room. Some viewers widened their eyes. A blush briefly rose to Joy's cheeks, but she quickly regained her composure. Leaning forward, her voice sharpened. It'll be my turn too, Zendaya. But we're with you now, and I'm not finished yet. Zendaya straightened slightly, her gaze fixed on Joy's without shifting her stance. Me too. The studio air was still electric when the lights came back on. Zendaya had her hands clasped, her posture calm, but the tension in her jaw was visible. Joy Behar leaned forward. Her face held a glint of challenge, almost amusement. Whoopi and the other host, Sunny, sat tensely. His gaze kept flickering between Zendaya and Joy. It was like the moment when king and queen meet in a game of chess. Joy leaned forward without missing a beat. Her voice was soft, but there were thorns hidden beneath. So, Zendaya, she said, a sweet but fake smile on her lips. This new film, let me guess, another sensitive, strong, yet fragile female character? Or are you sending the same messages this time with a different hairstyle? A light laugh rose from the studio, but most of the audience was wary. Zendaya bowed her head slightly and replied calmly, Unfortunately, you've been content with press releases, Joy. Because if you'd actually seen the movie, you'd know it's a story about regret and healing. It's about a person who's made mistakes, confronting their past and searching for a new path. Joy clapped her hands sarcastically, her voice turning sarcastic. How fitting. Hasn't your entire career been spent trying to fix the perfect girl image that's already been reckoning with the past? Hollywood bailed you out, didn't it? Her words pierced the air like a whip. The air in the room suddenly felt heavy. Zendaya's back tensed slightly, but her expression remained unchanged. Her eyes were fixed on Joy's, her voice still calm. If you want to talk about my past, that's fine. I'm human too. I've made mistakes, but I didn't run from them. I tried to transform them, and I learned that while I was in the spotlight. Joy immediately jumped in. Didn't you run away, or did you sweep it under the rug? It feels like behind that elegant smile and that red carpet stance is still the same old story. Only with more expensive clothes. Zendaya's lips briefly straightened into a straight line. There was silence for a few seconds. Then she replied softly but clearly, You find it so easy to bring people down, don't you? Joy crossed her arms across her chest, her expression haughty. I just see the hypocrisy and I call it out. You act like the voice of the common people, but at the end of the day, you're a star who walks the red carpet and makes multi-million-dollar deals. Uneasy whispers circulated through the audience. Zendaya tapped the arm of her chair once, then clasped her hands together again. Her voice was quiet but jarring. You don't know what I do when the cameras are off, Joy, and what I work for. And you don't know what you value, Zendaya said, her voice still soft but her disappointment palpable. Joy retorted immediately. Her Brooklyn accent had sharpened, her voice rising. Oh, I know perfectly well. You value box office numbers, visuals, staying popular. You always play the same inspirational young woman character and avoid taking risks because you don't have the courage to dig deep. Zendaya laughed, shaking her head slightly, but there was neither amusement nor mockery in it, just fatigue and a touch of disappointment. Isn't it funny? She said, her eyes still fixed. You talk here every day about kindness, equality, progress. But when someone doesn't fit your narrative, you try to silence them with condescension and ridicule. The remark hit the studio like a slap in the face. Whoopi's eyebrows raised. A quiet murmur rose from the audience, but Joy remained undaunted. Better fake than be underestimated, she said, leaning forward across the table. I know what you think you are. You're a fraud. Behind the beauty and the smooth talk, there's nothing but media training. Zendaya narrowed her eyes slightly, but her voice remained steady. Do you really look at me like that? Because I've worked my whole life to prove the opposite, to defend my own identity, my own voice, my own values. Joy slammed her hand on the table, her voice booming. All your life, you've made millions acting in front of cameras. You're supposedly representing ordinary people while they're struggling to survive. You're a Hollywood product, Zendaya. That's all. Zendaya's fingers dug into the table, but she didn't make a fist. Her eyes didn't well up, but in that moment, the entire audience felt the storm inside her. Her voice was low, clear, and determined. You can criticize anything about me, Joy, but don't disrespect the people who support me. Those people don't believe in me. They believe in their own inner courage. And you belittle those people every day at the microphone. Joy's laughter was loud and cruel. Don't be so self-important. No one supports you, only the marketable version of you, because they don't want to admit it. You're just a lucky, privileged young woman. The tension in the studio was almost palpable. Even the cameras seemed to tremble. The lens slowly focused on Zendaya's face. Her jaw was clenched, but there was neither anger nor fear in her eyes, just cool determination. Zendaya leaned forward slightly, her every word carefully chosen. You have a lot of opinions about me, Guangguoi. But the point is, you don't want to hear the truth. You just want to win. Joy moved forward as well, as if preparing for the final move on a chessboard. Oh, Zendaya, you still don't get it. I've already won. That arrogant smile was the final straw. Zendaya pulled back, leaning back in the chair. The silence between them was like the air before a storm. Her nostrils flared slightly, and she took a deep breath. She kept her eyes on Joy's. Her face held a mixture of patience and disappointment. Whoopi finally gave up speaking, her voice almost a whisper soft. Maybe we can get to the movie now. But neither Joy nor Zendaya moved. Joy smiled slightly, the spark of defiance still in her eyes. Oh no, we're just getting started. A faint smile tugged at the corners of Zendaya's lips, a smile tinged with wonder yet dangerously quiet. Yes, Zendaya whispered, we really are just getting started. The entire studio seemed to hold its breath. The audience lined up shoulder to shoulder, stood silent, their gazes flickering between Joy and Zendaya. It was as if two gladiators were battling in the middle of the arena with words instead of swords. Zendaya slowly clasped her hands together in front of her, then, with an almost ceremonial calm, placed her arms on the table. There was a tension in her eardrum, but her voice remained even. I see how much you enjoy these moments, Joy. This is purely a game for you, isn't it? Joy raised her eyebrows, her smile deepening. What do I enjoy? Asking the questions no one else dares to ask. Zendaya tilted her head slightly, then answered directly. No, what you enjoy is humiliating people. You're not interested in the truth. You just want more applause, more attention. You want to impose your own truths, not understanding. The first reaction from the audience was a quiet murmur. Some nodded, others averted their eyes. Zendaya's words were silent but sharp, like a dagger. You enjoy humiliating people, Joy, Zendaya said, her voice still soft but full. You're not interested in the truth. You're just making up your own minds. You're trying to look smart at everyone else's expense. There were scattered reactions from the audience. Some nodded, others shifted uneasily. The tension had settled almost like a physical weight. Joy waved her hand away and laughed wryly. Oh, please, don't play that fragile little star with me. You're an actress, Zendaya. You know how to act, but you don't scare me. Zendaya leaned back calmly. Her voice trailed off, but every word was clear. Good, because you don't impress me either. The remark struck home. Joy's face contorted for a moment. She sat upright in her chair. Do you know what your real problem is? She said, her voice sharpening. You've been told you're amazing for so long, now you're actually starting to believe it. Zendaya tilted her head, a slight smile tugging at her lips. She responded with that confident, elegant expression. That's the problem with you. You've been criticizing others for so long, you don't even remember what you believe in anymore. You don't speak to defend anything anymore, only to tear it down. There were oohs from the audience. Joy's eyes narrowed, but she quickly regained her composure and spoke sarcastically with a wry smile. Such sweet words, but let's talk about what you actually stand for. Mediocre productions, forgettable characters, and your career as a PR bubble, walking on a few pretty shots and social media jabs. A few people in the audience gasped. Whoopi involuntarily closed her eyes. Zendaya's face didn't harden, but it was clear something inside her was about to break. Still, she replied without raising her voice. Those words are too easy for someone speaking from behind the chair. But out there, in the real world, there are those young women I represent walking alongside me. They hear those words every day, and my job is to make them stand up, not bow down to those words. Joy burst out laughing. Stand up? For what? For fake heroism? You don't know what real fighting is. I know because I'm fighting for real. Zendaya nodded. Her words were sharp yet subtle. You think fighting means fighting everyone, but fighting means remaining compassionate despite everything, even knowing how to remain silent without breaking your stance. When she finished, the audience erupted. Applause erupted, some rising to their feet. Zendaya's words weren't just a response, they were a challenge. But Joy didn't move. She leaned in, her voice low and sinister as poison. Do you really think that little speech of yours won any points? Your entire career is nothing but a well-managed social media gloss. You have no real history. You just have a polished image. Zendaya's eyes narrowed for a moment. It was the first signal she'd given in her entire stand. Her face remained calm, but that look, it stabbed into Joy's gaze like an icy blade. She placed both palms on the table. She leaned forward. Her voice didn't rise, but the weight of it was like a slap that bounced off the wall. You can say whatever you want about me, Joy, but don't underestimate the places where I was born or the people who remain there. You couldn't even handle a single day of their lives. The audience barely breathed. Joy's lips curled as if she'd gained a hand. What are you going to do, Zendaya? Call me out? Show me your strength? Maybe with a few tears? Silence me with your typical inspirational speeches? Zendaya bowed her head, then raised her eyes again. She smiled, but it wasn't warm or vulnerable. It was the smile of someone who can't be broken, but who doesn't want to be. That's the difference between you and me, Joy. You think strength is shouting, it's mocking, suppressing, belittling, but true strength is holding your own even when someone tries to tear you apart. A silence fell in the studio, the kind of silence that resonates even when the words are gone. The camera cut in close on Zendaya. The lights were on her, but she didn't sweat. Her voice remained. Joy's lips curled, intent on delivering one final blow. Oh, Zendaya, you've already lost your dignity. You just don't realize it because your ego has blinded you. This time, the silence was deeper. Even the audience avoided eye contact. The lights seemed hotter, the air heavier. Zendaya didn't respond. She simply took a deep breath. She stood, her eyes closed, her voice silent, but with a resolve beyond words. Zendaya, perhaps without a tie, took a slow, deep breath, as if untangling the knot in her soul. Her face was a mask covered in serenity, but a fire burned in her eyes. Her voice was slow but clear. You know what, Joy? You are not worth it. Joy's smile faltered for a moment. Then it quickly recovered, a sarcastic tone etched into her voice. Oh, are you running away now? How classic. Zendaya shook her head, slowly rising from her chair. The sound of the chair on the wooden floor echoed through the studio. I'm not running away, she said firmly. I'm just getting up from this table while I still have some self-respect. The room fell silent, then erupted in rippling applause. Some held themselves back, others stood. Some watched in admiration, others in surprise. But everyone couldn't take their eyes off Zendaya. Joy leaned back in her chair, folding her arms, but something was missing from the triumphant expression on her face. The subtle unease in her eyes perhaps signaled she had gone too far. Zendaya paused for a moment. Her eyes scanned the studio. Then slowly she turned to Joy. You showed everyone who you are, Joy, and so did I. And she began to walk. The cameras followed her every step. The silence behind her, not a storm, not a cry of triumph, was merely the echo of a dignified march. Every step was deliberate, measured. It neither accelerated nor hesitated, as if each step carried a message. I'm not in this game. Mutterings, whispers, and confused glances circulated through the audience. Joy remained seated, but her face was no longer relaxed. Her eyes were cast downward. The arrogance had vanished, replaced by a quiet regret. Zendaya stopped before the curtain. She turned, taking one last look at the audience. The camera moved to a close-up. His face was serene, but there was still that deep spark in his eyes. And he spoke. I came here today because I wanted to share my work, my values, and what I believe in. I was ready to confront different ideas, But what I wasn't ready for was disrespect masquerading as media. Zendaya took a deep breath. She stood center stage. The spotlight was on her, but it wasn't just the light that shone, it was the honesty of her heart about to speak. I was prepared for the tough questions and the disagreements. But what I wasn't prepared for was the cruelty disguised as journalism. The word cruelty made Joy wince. She rolled her eyes, but the true impact was evident in her eyes. Zendaya took another step. She wanted to reach not just the studio audience, but everyone watching at home. People come to this show for the truth, for real conversations. But instead, they encounter someone who uses a platform to tear others down, to belittle them, and to get cheap applause. Applause erupted in the hall. Some audience members stood, others were still in shock. But everyone sensed something had changed. Zendaya waited. When the applause subsided, she spoke her final words. "You don't have to like me. You don't even have to respect me. But no matter what, just because you're sitting in this chair doesn't give you the right to look down on someone else. This isn't journalism. This is just bullying in a more subtle way." Joy's lips moved. She wanted to say something, but no sound came. The crowd was silent. There was no distraction. Zendaya's words still lingered. Zendaya bowed her head slightly, a nod that carried neither victory nor defeat, then turned and walked the last few steps. As she walked behind the curtain, the audience was standing, applauding. Some shouted her name, others simply wiped away tears. Backstage, the press secretary and producers were stunned. Zendaya walked among them with a graceful smile. She nodded only once. "Thank you." Her face was serene again. On stage, Joy slumped in a chair. Her eyes were fixed on the table, her hands clasped together. The stern expression she had so proudly cultivated was gone. In its place was a confused emptiness. Whoopi, Sarah, and Sunny exchanged glances. The silence was agonizing. Finally, Whoopi turned to the camera with a stifled smile. "We'll be back after a commercial." But everyone there and the millions watching the screens knew this. Nothing would ever be the same again. Within hours, social media exploded. Hashtags took over the trending list. At Zendaya Speaks, #The View Unmasked, the #Grace Under Pressure. Fans and critics analyzed every sentence, every facial expression line by line. People took sides. Some called Joy brave, but the vast majority applauded Zendaya's graceful defiance and the powerful message she delivered without raising her voice. The headlines were clear. Zendaya walks out of the View and wins the moment. Joy Behar faces backlash. After cruelty cloaked as questions, Zendaya, calm and composed, leaves the studio, but takes the room with her. Former guests, actors, and media figures took turns sharing messages of support on social media. Some praised Zendaya's poise and determination, while others criticized Joy's harshness and personalized aggression. That evening, Zendaya posted a short but powerful statement on her Instagram and Twitter accounts. "It's natural to think differently and ask questions, but it's not right to belittle anyone. Respect is meaningful when you show it to those you disagree with. Thank you to everyone who wrote to me and supported me today. You don't have to remain silent, but remaining graceful can still be your choice." The post received millions of likes and hundreds of thousands of comments within hours. The most frequently commented word was class, poise, grace. On Joy Behar's side, silence reigned, but that silence was louder than any defense. And so the curtain fell on not just an interview, but one of the most dramatic and unforgettable moments in daytime television history. Zendaya arrived on The View. She was ready for questions. She resisted the attacks, she held her ground, and she left, a winner, not a loser. So what do you think? Did Zendaya do the right thing? Did Joy cross the line? Share your thoughts into the comments. And for dramatic stories inspired by true events like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and turn on notifications for the next big conflict, because the next act is closer than ever.